TVs would only play porn.
Because it's literally
It's a weapon.
virus. It's a virus.
It's a weapon against the
social cohesion. It literally is a virus for social cohesion.
And you think this is one of the things that I've noticed about evil is it presents something to you like, oh, this, don't you want this? Isn't this great? Doesn't this feel good? Don't you just want to eat cake all the time? Isn't that great? Don't you want to just get off? Isn't it great to just bang whoever you want? And in the beginning, you're like, oh, shit, this is awesome. And why wouldn't God want me to have this? He's such an asshole. He doesn't want me to have any fun. And then you get into it a little bit. You go, ew, I'm eating cake all the time. I feel sick. I'm malnourished. Oh, my brain's broken. I can't get off unless I'm thinking about some.
Well, I mean, Leo, you
stuff.
recently shared that you became an Orthodox Christian, and I think that's beautiful because that's sort of the whole Christian rite of passage, which is that salvation is tumultuous. It's sacrificing. It's there's a labor to it.
Yeah.
And the path to hell, it's pleasurable. That's what people don't understand. Like
in the beginning, it's pleasurable.
You get to hell because it feels good. Look at all these women. Look at all this food.
First got
hedonistic.
Yeah,
exactly.
I fell into that, and you just go. But then you just need like more and more and weirder. Like, oh, I need two, and just keep pushing, and then you realize you're not getting any real connections with these girls.
That's what the cross represents.
You also realize
you're carrying your weight,
you're hurting girls too. And I love women. I make jokes about it, but I like generally care about girls. And some of these girls, you're actually they get feelings for you, then you're hurting them, and you realize. That's evil if you're hurting these women. I would excuse it by like, oh, I'm not lying to them. I'm being honest. I'm not dating them. So I would excuse it in my head. But then I realized I was lying to myself.
Yeah. Yep. That's amazing that you came to that because, you don't have to. Mm-hmm. And the society would never fault you for it. They'd be like, oh, you're a Chad,
Yeah, it's so easy to be like, well, I told the girl I'm not in a relationship.
Yep. I know.
So I'm justified. That's what I justified to myself.
Yeah.
Then I realized it doesn't matter. You're still hurting them because girls think they can go along with things and they can't. I don't think they're meant to have sex without getting emotion.
Yeah, and the culture is telling us to be like you guys, and that if we can't be like you guys, then we're weak and we're anti-feminists. And don't you want to be cool?
Get an abortion.
Get an abortion. All this stuff. But yeah, I did convert to Orthodoxy, and I got there through conspiracies. Because, I started digging and I had a crackhead on my neighborhood in Harlem, and this was during COVID, and it was like, what's up, Randy? And Randy, the crackhead's always...
No one else to hang out during COVID.
Yeah, and he's like he's smoking a cigarette on the corner, and he's like, everything that's happening now is in the Bible. And I was like, what page? And then I started investigating, and then I realized I saw the emails of like Hillary Clinton sacrificing children to Moloch.
That's some weird shit.
And then I read Father Seraphim Rose's book, Orthodoxy and Religion of the Future. Mm-hmm. And he dispels everything. He dispels even from the League of Nations to United Nations and how that's an anti-Christian movement. The woman who started that, I forgot her name, but she was married to an evangelical preacher who was very abusive to her. And so she had a vendetta against Christianity, and her whole point in that organization is to take down Christianity. It's the foundation. They called themselves, initially I think they called themselves Lucifer.
Always a war against the cross.
And clearly a war on Christianity.
Yeah, and then they put it down to Lucy. And I said, wait a second. If these people at the top of power are acting like everything in the Bible's real, and they're in power, and then they're telling the rest of us that it's not, what do they know?
That's a great point. And when you mentioned the Hillary Clinton Moloch thing, clarify for the audience, there was something part in there. What was it? Marina
Abramovich, yeah.
She was coming over to Hillary's class to do spirit cooking, which is a satanic ritual with blood, semen.
Yep.
So they're literally coming over to do and who knows what else they're doing there. It could be sacrifice, who knows. But they're coming over to do these. Like, why is Hillary Clinton, who was running for president at the time, doing sacrifices with a literal witch?
This is a great metaphor I have for what I think is in our world. And it's hard even because the veil isn't fully fallen from my eyes. I got to say, I go back and forth in Christianity.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a hard thing. Because,
that's normal.
But I will say this, like, I used to watch this show Once Upon a Time on WB. It's like a terrible written show or whatever, but it was fun for me. And it's based on, all the storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. And it starts off with like a really normal, materialistic, modern town. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. There's a weird vibe, and there's a woman in charge. She's like the mayor or whatever. And at the end of the episode, they kind of reveal, like they go into her office, and she's the evil witch from Snow White, and she does some kind of spell with the apples or whatever. And it's suddenly revealed that she put a spell on the whole town to convince them that magic's not real. None of those things are real, and they live in a material world. And what you have is these powerful beings in there, these powerful fairy tale figures who have forgotten who they are and have no access to their power. And to me, that is a perfect metaphor for the world that we live in. We operate like the only thing that's real is this material plane. And the whole spiritual thing and everything about God and all that, that's not real. So we've cut ourselves off from our source of power. We have no idea who we are. And I believe that this is actually the reason we're so unhappy. We are longing for something that we deep down inside know, but our brains are constantly telling us is not real.
Yeah, no, there's clearly more out there. There's clearly a God. There's clearly something. Another added benefit to church is it brings you a community. People don't have communities anymore.
Yep.
You probably do through comedy, but regular person has no community and hardly any friends.
It's true. It's true.
And I'll add here that, here's how we know we live in an absolute atheistic material society, because material truth actually doesn't give any meaning. Material truth tells you how things are built and what things are at a structural level. But moral truth is actually a totally different philosophical conversation. And this has been something that's been very difficult for many philosophers to contest with. But the reality is that so much of what we care about isn't material. It's like many of the missions and incentives that we actually believe in are archetypal. It's beyond, that's not physical at all.
Yep.
It's a belief.
Mm-hmm.
That's a culture we're trying to denote. It's invisible. And it's so important. This is why I always advocate people to really be grounded spiritually, because if they don't have that, then they're actually not even conscious of why they're fighting.
Yeah.
And what religion does, if you do it properly, is it makes you aware of almost the backing principle of why you're being active. And most people are it's just so disconnected. Yeah, it's so disconnected.
But everybody just seems like they're too smart and too good for religion. They're all just too smart. Everybody's just too smart. I can figure this out by myself. I'm like, really? So for thousands of years, humanity has needed a guidance system and instruction in this department, but you figured it out because you have technology?
Yes. Also, every single society all through history has always believed in religion and something. And there's also people have always been seeing other things out there, whether it's angels and demons, or sometimes they'll call them aliens, or different culture might call them elves or gnomes. There's always seeing other beings out there, and there's never been a society that's thrived without a God.
I agree, and I think there's a couple of things like what Arthur was saying. People always say, "Well, why do I need to go to church? And is it a sin if I don't go to church?" And I don't know. I can't answer those questions, but I do know that what I was told and what I learned and what I've experienced is that we are spiritually sick, and going to church is like going to the hospital. You're getting nourished, and you're getting fed, and you're getting instruction that will serve to ground you and give you strength against the outside world that wants to destroy you. Why would you go into battle without armor?